Welcome everybody, I'm JayborinoPlays and I'm here with another special guest, EivindL, who is the creator of Crimson Moon, Amber Sun, and the upcoming Aurelian Eclipse. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and talk a little about I guess, getting started into map making and how you got started, and if you worked with any previous map making on another game.
Yeah, well, I started map making with the original Starcraft, and I started playing that like in 2000. I didn't make anything of note, I guess, but at least I learned to use the editor. And yeah, and I did try it a bit for Warcraft 3, but I didn't really have my breakthrough, so to speak, until Starcraft 2.
Mm-hmm. I messed around in the original StarCraft editor and I enjoyed it. I played a lot of those like Lord of the Rings custom maps and things like that, and I tried making one of my own. And it didn't go so well, but I found that the old StarCraft editor was a lot more intuitive, and I guess the issue with the new editor is how complex making units are, triggering. It's I mean, you can do a lot more, but you can't. It's a lot harder to learn, and I guess if you didn't do much in Warcraft 3, which is kind of like the cornerstone of map making as many people would see it, did you have any trouble getting into the StarCraft 2 editor?
Uh, no, actually not. I mean, it has this rumor of being like really complex, and it is really complex compared to both the original StarCraft editor and the Warcraft 3 editor. But most of the complexity is found in the data editor, which is basically like where you configure stats and damage and change the unit's name. Terrain is really intuitive. The triggers too work the same way as they did in Warcraft 3. And so, I mean, that's one of my advantages, because in campaigns you don't really need to use the data editor that much. And I don't, because I have no idea how it works. I mean, I've learned some stuff as I made these campaigns, but like, at first I just used it to like change the names, so Tychus became Henderson, and the Spectre became Neander, so to speak, and I changed the damage. That's really easy to do. And then later, I actually have a really good story that illustrates this, because with Amber Sun I wanted to do boss battles, and the first boss battle I did was Fountain Locust. And the thing about boss battles is that you need like an attack that you can evade. Like that's like the whole basis of any boss battle in like almost any game, and in RTS games you can't evade the attacks. You can evade some of them. So I had to work around it somehow, and I thought like, oh, what if I like reduce his vision and like come up with a story that is like he has myopia, which is basically like short-sightedness. And then I came up with a locust idea that they can sight him, and well, the rest turned into this really cool boss fight. And somewhere in between that, I started working on the idea that Giannis was going to fight Geraldus Rose at the end of the campaign. And at first I was going to like, just use nukes, because you can evade them automatically. But the idea of like using missiles sounded really cool, so I just started working on it, and I had a lot of trouble with it at first, but it turned out fine in the end.
So you're talking about the data editor and then kind of transition into boss battles there. So you said you had trouble with the data editor at first, but I assume you had to be working a lot in the data editor to make specific boss battles, because those are all custom. Obviously, Phantom Locust is a very custom unit, and so was the Geraldus Rose and stuff like that. So was it just sort of trial and error at that point?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm a member of the SCG Maps community, and you can ask like any kind of question there, and you usually get an answer. And I mean, I can't remember which part I helped and which I did not. But anyway, I did figure it out in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, the problem with the data editor is that it's so big, and it's so, you just have composites that are connected to each other, and you don't know where one end starts and one where ends, and it's really complex. But I can't remember. I guess it was a combination of trial and error and asking people.
Gotcha. So I guess would you recommend for someone who was just starting then, I guess what I'm kind of gathering from this is don't try to make a custom unit first if you want to start like learn the triggering and learn the terraining first.
Yeah,
And
I think like the data editor is like the last place you should go,
gotcha.
and and that's part of the reason I guess why. Uh, in addition, that would probably make arcade maps like the most difficult to make because they use the data editor a lot.
Mhm.
Like the easiest would be like standard melee maps, I guess, and campaign maps and mission maps would be a little more difficult. And arcade maps would be like the most difficult.
I see. Yeah, I mean, speaking of the arcade, that brings up a kind of another interesting point. And these are a lot of things that I talked with Telenol about, but I'm really glad I got to talk to you two because you've created something completely brand new. But on the topic of the arcade, I'm of the opinion that a lot of the reason that mapmaking isn't as big in StarCraft 2 is because the arcade wasn't. I guess maybe the layout isn't quite as intuitive, and also there's no real campaign support. Now I know Crimson Moon is on the arcade, at least in the North American region, because I found it there before.
Yeah,
But
it's in all the regions.
okay, great. So
Yeah.
there's a for any viewers out there who want an easy way to play Crimson Moon, you can go through the arcade, but then you can also download it off of SC2 Mapster. I guess we talk about on SC2 Mapster a lot how Blizzard could support custom campaigns more, but I don't really like. How would you envision them being able to do that? Like what would in your perfect world, what would they be able to do in the arcade that would make it easiest for you?
Well, like um, right now, each of the maps are like a separate file, and so if you type in Crimson Moon, you'll find 10 files. And so it's very easy to find out, like it says Crimson Moon 1, Crimson Moon 2. But it would be really cool if you could like search for Crimson Moon and find like one file, and then you open it, and then you get like the mission launcher or something like that. And I think they had that for Warcraft 3. It came out not during the original, but when Frozen Throne came, they made like a campaign editor where you could like use the mission screen and like make missions. I didn't really play Warcraft 3, at least not custom maps that much. But I suppose that would be ideal. But also, you should be able to save, of course.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you download the maps, you can. But if you play anything off the arcade, it's really frustrating that you can't save. And I'm really surprised. That seems like it would be a pretty straightforward thing for them to have implemented.
Yeah, I'd recommend people like download the campaign. I mean, I just put it out there to get because some people wanted it and other people, and it would like increase exposure. But the way, I mean, it was made to play by download, then you get the mission launcher, and then the missions connect. So yeah,
Yeah,
should do that.
I completely agree. If you're gonna play pretty much any custom campaign, I would recommend doing it, downloading it straight from SC2 Mapster or wherever else it happens to be hosted. But yeah, I hope. And there was talk about in Legacy of the Void they might add some custom campaign support, but that was like 2 BlizzCons ago, and then this BlizzCon, I don't think anybody asked about it, but we can hope.
Yeah, we can, and I wouldn't be surprised if it like if it turn up in the end. I mean, I don't think it's that hard to do.
Right.
And they have probably had a lot to do already, so one thing at a time, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it really doesn't bother me. It's not that important for me that a lot of people play it. I mean, it's cooler the more people play it, but it's not like I'm making money off it or anything. So,
yeah,
I make these campaigns first and foremost for myself, and when people play it and say they like it, that's like the coolest feeling in the world. But I'm happy with the way things are now, really.
Well, that's. I mean, I want to talk more about map making later, but the fact that you bring up making maps for the as a map maker, you do it for fun. You're not really doing it because Blizzard went out of their way specifically after the whole Dota debacle where they lost a bunch of money off of that and an IP was created. I guess let's talk about Perfect Soldiers in general, and well, that's the name of the trilogy. Is like how did this get started, and what kind of sparked you into wanting to make these?
You mean like the Perfect Soldiers thing, or like Crimson Moon?
I guess the whole series. I know that you started with one map and then you decided to make it into multiple parts.
Yeah, I guess at this time, I guess we should disclaim like there's gonna be spoilers now.
All right,
Uh,
yeah.
so if you haven't played Crimson Moon, go do that and come back. But yes, it started with Crimson Moon. It was an idea to like do a trilogy at first. I just had this idea of like a ghost and a specter doing missions together, and they were brothers. And then both of them would lose their memories, and one would end up killing each other, and that was like a really cool dark story. And I started making a map, and I guess I worked on the map for 20 minutes, and then I was like, "Oh fuck this!" It didn't work. I didn't look good, and I wasn't really inspired. And I do that a lot. I start a map, and then I just lose interest. You know, I did that for Starcraft, and I did that for Warcraft 3 too. I do that sometimes now. But you know, I thought the idea was really cool. So then I came up with the idea of like what if I hid that fact from the audience that they were brothers? Because then it would be like a really cool plot twist. And so then I started a new project. I called it Crimson Sun. Um, you know, it didn't really sound good because you had like sun twice in a row. We had Crimson Sun. It was changed to Crimson Moon, and I started planning it and had this idea for a 5-mission campaign. You played the first mission, I think, and I created that mission, and I started creating the second. I was like, "Oh Jesus, I can't be bothered." I mean, I can be really lazy like that sometimes, and so I thought, well, what if I tried one more time? But this time it won't be 5 missions. It will be 10 missions. And the miners will have a bigger role, because they didn't have a role at all in the first one, at least. There weren't any characters with any names. And I started creating it, and I created the 2 first missions, Rural and Corinius, and I was starting the 3rd mission, and I couldn't come up with like a good idea for it. I knew that like in the next mission we were going to the Black Khan, and after that, you know, and I knew where it was going, but I couldn't figure out the 3rd mission. I was like, should I just jump to the Black Khan, or should I do a holdout mission? And none of it felt really right. And then I came up with the idea of the infested transports, and I was like, oh, this is really cool.
I really like that mission, yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool because the story and the gameplay was basically just the same thing, you know. It wasn't like you had a story and, oh, you have to kill some Zerg. You know, you were getting off this planet, but you had a problem. You were evacuating people, and you had to find out which of the colonies were infested. And I thought that was a really cool idea, and I just got really inspired when making it. And since then, I haven't quit making a map. You know, now I'm in my 3rd campaign. You know, and yeah, that was the mission that did it for me.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely shows in that mission. I really, really like Mission 3. That one, I played Missions 1 and 2, and they're very good, don't get me wrong, but Mission 3 was what really hooked me. And it just felt so... It had a StarCraft 2 feel, but it was also unique enough. Like, the mission idea of the infested transports was so cool, and then that was also when the story started getting more intriguing, when I realized we were starting to follow around these miners and Giannis and kind of learning what was going to happen.
Yeah, the story has a really slow start, and you know that wasn't my intention. I just had a lot of characters, and I didn't want to introduce them all at once, so I spread it out. And yeah, the gameplay in the first mission, 2 missions are very basic. It's hard to come up with mission ideas, and well, that was basically the best thing I could come up with, I guess.
Oh sure, I mean they're still fun to play. I'm playing them right now. I'm on mission 2, and I mean I still enjoy them. Micro missions are always enjoyable to play, because you have to kind of ration out how much, you know, what units you can lose. I actually lost my first 2 Marines right away, and I restarted the mission. But
yeah,
it's I guess that brings up the next point that is difficulty. I know that you don't have difficulty settings on your maps, but it works out because for me they're right around where my ability to play is. So I think that's great. But how do you balance your maps?
oh yeah, that's a good question. Well, the reason I don't have difficulties is again because, first of all, because I'm a bit lazy. You would have to test the map so many times, like one for each difficulty, if I wanted to be right. And that takes such a long time, so I guess I just prioritized going to the next mission. But also, I like the idea of having like one mission difficulty. It's very old school because you have to play it, you're forced to do this, otherwise you have to cheat.
Right.
And maybe sometime in the future I would go back and add difficulty settings. I understand that people want them, and I play other maps with difficulty settings, including Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, and I'm so glad it's there. But for the time being, you won't see it in my maps for some time now. Probably never.
Okay. I mean, if anything, what it seems like a lot of people do is when they do difficulty, they make it where they think is best, and then they just scale it backwards so that it's easier. Because generally, when you get complaints, it's too hard, it's too hard. And if you get someone who says, oh, it's too easy, I don't know if that's really a. I mean, unless you're kind of in the alpha phases of the map, I'm not really sure how much of a complaint that really can be, I suppose. But no, I know that Crimson Moon, I guess Mission 8 is a great example of,
Yeah.
of your maps being hard, but to the point where if you keep trying and you keep playing, you get better. Like, I've, like, specifically, I played through Mass Recall on hard, and then your maps, which I would say are about on par with that, if not just slightly harder on some missions, I think are excellent examples of how you can get better at this game, which I think a lot of people discount the fact that, oh, it's a custom campaign, but it's still StarCraft, and I've gotten better at the whole game playing custom campaigns because you're still macroing, you're still microing, you're still doing the same mechanics. So, in that sense, I mean, if something's too hard for you and you just, you're a very casual player, I can understand. But if it's you fail once, that doesn't mean it's too hard. So I guess.
Well, it is a game. It's supposed to be challenging, and if you can beat that challenge, it's all the more rewarding.
Absolutely.
At the same time, StarCraft 2 is a very difficult game. You're just moving so many units around, and like the 8th mission that you were talking about is really difficult. I did scale it down a bit from the first edition. I don't know which one you played. I think it's even easier now, though I haven't re-uploaded that mission. But and I think there were some times when I made Crimson Moon where some of the missions were a bit too difficult, I think. Especially in Mission 5, because you have like 6 banshees attacking you out of nowhere. And when I was playing it, I knew they were coming, so I built a lot of missile turrets. But people had no idea, and that banshee attack, I've gotten so much critique for it, and it's totally justified. So I nerfed that. And when I created Amber Sun, someone gave me the idea that I should use testers, and I've been using that ever since, and it's helped me a lot, really.
Yeah, and that probably would save a lot of time, just so that you don't have to do as much testing.
Yeah, definitely. I can send it to them and start working on something else. And I mean, the maps are all the more better for it because I've gotten so much help. So I think that was one of the lessons I learned while making Crimson Moon. But at the same time, you can't cater to everyone. Like Mission 7, Crimson Moon, where at one point a lot of infested units come and attack you. A lot of people went the wrong direction. You went the right direction, and they were trying to get through the infested, and they couldn't. And they weren't supposed to. They just didn't get that they were supposed to go through that door. And I was like, you can't please everybody. I'm sorry if you're that stupid. I can't help you.
Yeah,
but,
I got the impression you were
I
just supposed to
went
run.
back to that mission and added a ping on the map, and say this is where you should be supposed to go. If you can't figure it out, then I'm sorry. You probably shouldn't be having a computer. No, I'm just joking. But that's the mindset you get because you know the map and then people don't, and it's really frustrating. And so yeah, I guess I've learned some empathy through creating these campaigns.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen the complaints on. I mean, every map has complaints, and that's it can get frustrating because there's good complaints and then there's just overly entitled complaints. So it's got to be challenging as a content creator to deal with that. sometimes.
Yeah, well, I've been very lucky with my testers. They're very reasonable, and their critique is very constructive. And you know, a lot of the like BattleNet critique is like, oh, this map sucks, 1 star, and I just can't take that seriously. So yeah, I mean, you know, I don't mind criticism if it is constructive. Some criticism is a bit weird. Some is very direct, like someone says like, "Oh, Crimson was mediocre, but Amber Sun was cool," and it's like, "Oh, it's mediocre, is it?" So, I mean, when you spend 6 to 9 months making a campaign for free, I mean, the least you could do is be, I don't know, a little less, not less directly, but you know, what's the word?
Not, I guess.
A bit more mannered, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just being nice about it in general, and
Don't be rude.
yeah, it's a tall order to ask the internet to be to be nice. But I completely agree. It can be frustrating, and the bigger you get, the worse it gets. But then at the same time, you get people who, you know, they come on, they say these are the best maps ever. This is the best custom campaign, and I mean, I think Amber Sun is probably my favorite original custom campaign. I mean, all of them that I've played, none of them have been bad, certainly. I've really enjoyed all of them, but I really enjoyed Amber Sun as a whole, and I think it was mission 6?
6 probably, yeah.
It was probably like my favorite custom campaign mission map that I've ever played. Like, the way that you made it so that the guards can only see directly in front of themselves. I don't know how you did that, but it was really, really cool.
Yeah, that's my favorite mission too, and it's... I don't think it was supposed to be this great. It just ballooned. A lot of missions, like, I mean, you plan them and then stuff happens. And that was one of the missions. Like for instance, the plan was to have like a lot more open base, so you could like choose the direction you wanted. But actually, it's a pretty straightforward line. You just can't see it, you know. But you're supposed to go to A to B to C. You know, you can't go A C B.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try a boss, and then I did that, and maybe I'll try another boss, and then it was like, maybe I'll add a little escape at the end, and you know, it just ballooned, and yeah, it's a real great mission. And the idea, like, for Crimson Moon was like to create a stealth campaign, like a Metal Gear Solid thing. That was supposed to be like the thing that the gimmick that separated from the rest. And then the miners got introduced, and they don't do mining. No, they don't do stealth, I'm sorry. They just attack, and so that got a bit sidelined, but there were a bit stealth. There were some stealth missions in Crimson Moon. But like, the 6th mission, that was like the time when I figured it out. And units in Starcraft don't have frontal vision, and you can't do that, so I had to do a little workaround. And basically they have like this circle that constantly is in front of them, and if Janus enters one of these circles, the alarm goes off. So it's really as simple as that.
Okay. So is that something...
Actually, it wasn't that simple to do, because I couldn't get the circle to be where I wanted it to be. I think sometimes it ended up on the side, sometime on the back, and in the map you can't see it. You know, it's an invisible circle, you see it only in the editor. So that was really frustrating. I had to test the map so many times, and then I will basically have Janus go up to the back, and that would be the alert will go off, and I was like, "What the fuck just happened?" But you know, I figured it out in the end. You know.
So was that just a? I guess how did you do that? Like, is it something that you could set for like the entire faction, like the entire Terran faction of that color? You could set to have that small frontal piece of vision?
Maybe there's a way to do that. But I don't know how you would do it. I did it individually for each unit.
Oh, jeez, that's what
and that took a lot of time, but you know, it ended up being really rewarding, because then each circle could be a different size. Because like one unit might be in a small corridor and need a smaller circle, and another one might be a big corridor and need a bigger one. So you know, I mean, it's just a matter of copy paste, really. And you know, you don't see it when in your recording, but each time you get caught by a guard, each guard says a different thing. So I actually programmed that for each of the guard.
Wow.
So one would say like, "Hey, I see you," or someone like, "Who are you?" and whatever.
Well, I mean, of
So
course, you didn't see it in mine because I'm a master of stealth.
yeah, I think
As
that was the only thing missing from your recording that people wouldn't see what happened because like the music changes, the alarm goes off, the lighting changes and becomes really red and becomes like really intense.
Mhm.
So that was really cool.
Now I kind of wish I would have shown it off, but but at the same time, if you get caught by the guards, like you have to like hide, and you have like a 50% chance of losing because they chase you around for a while. You have to find a place where they won't patrol.
And that was one of the hardest things to program, and I don't know if I did it optimally, but you have like these search groups, and they basically what they do is they start off in the location you are when you get caught, and then they hit like some different spots. So it isn't like Metal Gear Solid where they are like really intelligent. So that's really hard to do, but
Hmm.
it worked for the
Yeah,
goal I set it.
I can certainly see the Metal Gear Solid inspirations for a lot of the story too. And is
Yeah,
that I assume that's probably one of your favorite video game series?
yeah, definitely. I played a lot of that, and there's a lot of story in Metal Gear Solid, and there's a lot of originality. Like for each game, Hideo Kojima tries to do something else. So there's a lot to steal from.
Hmm.
So like Phantom Locust, I guess he could be a boss in the MGS series. He has his backstory and he has this weirdness. All the bosses in Metal Gear Solid are like really weirdos. And there's a fight in Metal Gear Solid 3 that really resembles it, which is the Pain, which is the guy like he has these bees that sight for him in the water and stuff like that, and they help him. It's a bit different, but at the same time, there's a similarity. I
Hmm.
mean, I wasn't ripping off it, but in retrospect, I could see that these two bosses were very similar.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have ever thought that you were like stealing from Metal Gear Solid, but you could definitely see the inspiration from it, which is I think is excellent. And same with there's a lot of Game of Thrones with some of the story aspects later on, and I think that's I think that's a good way to get started into map making too is using other things as an inspiration. And Telenol said something when it comes to mechanically doing your triggers and stuff. Other people have done a lot of the hard work, and you can look at other maps and see how the triggering is done. So you can open up a Mass Recall map, you can open up a Blizzard campaign map, you can open up Crimson Moon, and you could see how some of these triggers work, and then you can you can move those to your own map and get a foundation, and then you can build from that.
Yeah, I mean, Telenor, I mean, is absolutely correct. I mean, I just copy paste and steal and like see what other people do. And Blizzard, all the Blizzard maps are available, so you can like see what they did.
Hmm.
And I've done that so much. And I mean, the last thing you should worry about, like when making maps like this, is being accused of plagiarism. I mean,
It's
that's
free, yeah.
yeah, we're not making any money, so you and we are free to steal, I guess. And yeah, you mentioned Game of Thrones. I mean, I steal from Game of Thrones a lot, really. So yeah, you should definitely find inspiration in other people.
Hmm. So, no, I'm not saying this as like any sort of barb against Telenol, but your maps are different from Mass Recall in the sense that they are completely new, whereas Mass Recall is the terrain they were able to use the legacy importer, right? So I guess I was really excited to talk to you about terrain because I am someone who's really into these custom campaigns,
Yeah.
but I feel like I just can't terrain. And I guess can you talk about anything? I don't even have like an introduction to this topic. That's how lost and clueless I am about it.
That's okay. That's okay. What was the question?
So I guess if you want to just talk a little bit about terraining and how to plan a good terrain for your missions.
Well, yeah, I was actually thinking about this before this interview, and well, the bad news is that some people are going to be naturally better than others. If you have like an artistic mind, and you're very good at aesthetics, you're probably going to have an advantage. I mean, that's the problem with like the editor, because a lot of people who master it, they are like programmers. I mean, not necessarily employed as programmers, but they have that sort of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually the kind of people who suck at terraining. Uh, I mean, it's true. Like, I'm not a programmer, so like, terrain is maybe my forte, but I can never do that editor. I can't do modeling either. I have to have people help me there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you can practice, and yes, you can get better, because my terrain was not as good as it was now, and I believe it's even getting better. So just practice, practice, see what other people do, see what Blizzard do. They have generally had the best terrain, and like pick up the small details. And the other thing you should do is like the first thing, go to a thread that's called Map Art on teamliquid.com, the forum.
Okay.
It's basically just that people publishing like really beautiful terrain, and there's a lot to learn there. And secondly, you can go to sc2mapster.com and the terrain subforum. They have this weekly terraining exercise where I have like a theme, and people make terrain according to that theme, like underwater or like make a bridge or something like that. And people are so creative, and there are a lot of terrainers who are much better than me, and it's just stunning like the things they could do. So yeah, I mean, it's like you have to practice and you have to do it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they say that like to master something you need 10,000 hours, and I really, it's the same with terrain, really. I mean, have you done a lot of it?
No, that's the problem is I kind of I open up a blank map and I kind of have a general idea of like some gameplay mechanics, and I just think like, where do I start, and I guess it's a lot of it is just something like, I don't know, I like to have something like completely planned out before I start, and I think that might be my problem because I'm unable to conceptualize an entire map before I start, and I guess maybe the key is just do something and then see where it takes me.
Yeah, I mean, the start of the map is always the most difficult, and that's the same way to me. You have like this blank canvas, and like you start to do things, and it starts to look like shit, and like, oh fuck this. I mean, seriously, it is like that for me too. So what I started to do is basically I just started to do sketching. I mean, I find like a white piece of paper, I take a pen, and I just start sketching, and I just do the overall structure, like the cliffs, and like here's the base, and it's much easier if you have like a plan to go after like that. So I would really recommend doing it. And you don't have, I mean, I drew a lot as a kid, and that probably helped a bit, but you don't have to be good at drawing, just making some lines of cliffs.
Mm-hmm.
That helps so tremendously. It also saves a lot of time, because when I don't do sketches, the maps usually end up being like too big, because you really don't want your maps to be too big. Not only does it take a lot of time, but you end up having units who are basically just walking on terrain, and the maps really don't have to be big, but they end up doing that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just practice, use sketching, look at what other people are doing, and maybe in time.
Okay.
It took time for me too. I made some maps before I made Crimson Moon, and they didn't look as good as these ones do.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think that's really good advice, and I just gotta try to get started. It's it's really daunting. And I work in IT, and I'm an application developer, so I feel like I can handle the triggering, and I just can't can't do that terrain. But
yeah, I mean, another thing, like, I mean, if people really want to make something but I can't do it, I suggest like create a team. Because there are people with good stories who can't do triggers, there are people with triggers who can't do terrain, and there are people with like terrain who can't do like stories. And like, I mean, making a campaign is like, it's really difficult and it takes a lot of time. And I like doing it alone because that means I can decide everything, and I'm sort of a control freak that way.
mm-hmm.
And I can do all the things I want, but if you're not that lucky, you should team up with somebody, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would really, I've thought about that myself, like teaming up with somebody when I'm finished with this, and making like a project with someone else. Because there are a lot of talented people there. in all the areas of the editor.
Well, hey, you have testers. That's you pretty much have a team right there.
Yeah, and it's a really good community on Asset and Napster. It's really small, but there are a lot of talented people there.
So I guess it's up to you if you want to if you want to talk any sort of spoilers or not. But let's whether you want to keep this spoiler free or not, let's talk about Ariel and Eclipse and or the future of the series in general. What's
Yes.
how's it going in general?
Well, I have finished 3 missions. I don't know if you have played any of them.
Trying not to.
Okay, yeah. Well, the thing about the ending of Amber Sun was I wanted to have an ending that was not just like emotionally crushing, but one where the player asks, "Okay, there's the sequel, but what the hell will be going on?" And just that confusing feeling. You know, if you had it, that was intentional.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was like, you know, you kill off Henderson and Janus gets turned into a perfect soldier again. Ryan is with Geraldus, you know. And, you know, I played with that a bit in the first mission, at least in the first 5 minutes. And then, I mean, it's not like a big twist or anything, but when you're starting the campaign, you're supposed to be thinking, I have no idea where the story is going.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's going really good so far. Not as fast as I want. I thought I would do a lot in the holidays, but it didn't turn out to be that well. And but you know, the story is really, really great. And you know, like Crimson Moon, like started really slow, like built, and well, Ember Sun sort of did the same, and then you have like these big climaxes at the end. But Aurel and Eclipse, I mean, there are probably more plot twists in that campaign than there are in Crimson Moon and Ember Sun combined.
Oh.
Yeah, and they come very early, in the middle, and they come like near the end. And there are like some of the series' biggest moments are coming. I mean, I wouldn't be putting out a story that I'm not satisfied with, but I'm really, really satisfied with it. There's so much going on in it, and you know, you basically have like this sequel pressure, because sequels usually suck, and for good reason, because it's hard to come up with a story. But I did myself a favor by essentially turning the story on its head, because you know, if you just continue the same way, like if Amber Sun just ended with us having a small victory against Geraldus, and the rest of Oriel and Eclipse was like continuing that, it would probably be hard to create a story. But you know, it's almost like I'm creating a new story.
Yeah, the way that Amber Sun ended, you kind of gave yourself a semi-fresh slate, and it ties in with what you were saying about purposefully making it so that you kind of felt like, well, where's it going to go from here? And because the player's thinking that, it gives you the opportunity to pretty much start it wherever you want, because they have no expectations for it, which is where a lot of sequels fail. People have very high expectations, and they can't be met because, you know, the creator and the players had just different expectations. But you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I can, and you know, I'm a really big fan of TV series. I mean, we live in like the golden age of TV series, and TV series are sort of very similar to campaigns because they're episodic. So instead of a TV episode, you have a mission. And the thing that sort of annoys me with TV series is that they just go on and they go on, and you have the same characters, and you know, maybe someone on the sideline gets killed, and maybe like after 4 seasons, you know, they kill off like a big character, but you know, Tony Soprano doesn't die in the middle of Sopranos, Dexter doesn't die in the middle of Dexter, and so forth, you know. It's like if they're killing the main characters, and I'm not saying they do it, but if a show does that, it's usually like in the final episode, the final scene. And you know, that's the thing that's kind of cool about Game of Thrones and, you know, A Song of Ice and Fire, because it just, no one is safe, and so the story often takes like this left turns all the time, and you know, that helps it from getting boring, because you know, the characters die at the most interesting, and you know, then you like introduce a new character or bring others to the forefront. So I think George Martin did himself a favor. That means he can like create a very long series that doesn't stop being interesting. I would argue maybe that the two last books aren't as interesting as the first, but I still have hope for the rest of the series.
Yeah, me too. I guess yeah, Game of Thrones, like the Red Wedding, it was the exact same feeling, and it was purposeful because he had it planned out. Is just like that feeling of uncertainty because you connected with certain characters and then you wonder like where is the story going to go? Like who am I? Because a lot of people they go into series and books and games thinking that they're going to be told who they should like, basically. Like at a
Yeah.
very basic level, that's what people think. I think in very basic terms, and you go and you're like, oh well, I like the Starks because they're the first characters I'm introduced to, and they don't seem like huge assholes.
Yeah.
And then he completely flips that on its head, and then yeah, you kind of get that uncertain feeling of like, well, what am I supposed to, where am I supposed to want this story to go? And it's very confusing. And you copied that very very well at the end of Amber's Son, very very well. So I'm to hear that was intentional. Congratulations, it was dead on.
Yeah, I mean, and there was another reason that I did it because when you're creating a custom pane, you sort of have like the deck shuffle against you. Because, I mean, you don't have voice actors, you don't have, well, actors at all. You basically have these little units walking around. And, I wanted people to actually get engaged by the story. And I thought, well, that's going to be very difficult. I mean, seriously, are people going to play this and, like, feel for Henderson and, like, really hate Ghost Kane and sort of stuff? And so I basically thought that, well, the best way to do it was, like, go the full mile, so to speak. I mean, kill everyone. So, no, well, not kill everyone, but like make you feel for these characters and then kill them. And I think it worked actually. But I've argued that when you create a story in a custom campaign, I would probably embrace some cliches. For example, if you're creating a sad scene, make it rain and make the lighting really dark. Because I mean, in a movie, if you have a strong actor, maybe, and a strong script, you don't really need that. But I use the example of Morgan Freeman in The Shawshank Redemption, because the director of the movie, he said that when he was on set, it looked like Freeman wasn't doing anything, like he just sit in a chair and like barely move his lips. But when you see the movie, you just notice that he's really great at underacting, and the feeling comes through. You feel for the character. And in a custom campaign, you don't have that. you have the Tychus portrait basically moving a bit around, and you have the dialogue. So, yeah.
Well, you've done a lot of interesting things with music too. You've had really good music choices, and I think that adds a lot too. Like I know the music at the end of Amber's Son Mission 10, like when everything starts going downhill, was like it added a certain intensity to it, which was really cool.
Yeah, the music is like one of the biggest tools you have, because there's a lot of music you can use. And I mean, I don't have a composer and I don't know how to compose music, but I don't really need to. And if you find the right music track, you can augment the scene like so much. Like when Janus learns that his memories have been erased, like there's a really powerful music track covering that. And there's really cool music, as you said, at the end of Amber's Son. And, sometimes you find a track at once that, like, works. Other times you have to, like, try a few times. I mean, there have been times where, like, I tried the track and it didn't work at all. And, sometimes the music just matches the scene so perfectly. And I think the best example of that, at least in my campaign, would be, like, the scene where Bayo dies. There's the 3-minute track there from Metal Gear Solid 2, and what's really cool about that track is that it has a lot of changes. Usually when you find like music from a game, it's just one or two themes. True, but it builds up and down, and I actually matched much of the dialogue to the mood of the music, like timed it and sort of stuff, and it worked out really great. Because like in the first, there's like this drone note in the beginning of the track, which fades in, and it like, and so I like checked iTunes and said, okay, that it comes at 18 seconds. So if I start the track 18 seconds before Giannis appears, I will have this like really cool, shocking moment, and it works because the camera like moves backwards and backwards, and when you finally see Giannis and that cue in the track comes, and it just augments the scene so much. And the player may not notice it, but he feels it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The effect works.
Yeah, it's certainly it adds a lot. I mean, you've had almost every mission. It seems like it has a custom track at some point or another, which is great.
Yeah, it's actually only the second Amber Sun mission that doesn't have a custom track.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of custom music, and it's really cool because like that's one of the ways you can put your finger tricks, so to speak, on it, because you're basically just working with a lot of Starcraft models. Like Henderson is just Tychus, but like the music is custom, so yeah, it's your chance to put your signature on it, I guess, and I try to do that.
Mm-hmm. So I guess let's kind of a topic change here. So I take, since you make maps in StarCraft 2, you're a StarCraft 2 fan of like the actual StarCraft 2 story and all that. I guess are you excited for Legacy of the Void? Do you have any expectations?
Well, when Wings of Liberty came out, I was one of the defenders of the storyline. I mean, I wasn't saying it was great, but it got a lot of hate, and I actually enjoyed it somewhat. And I was expecting Heart of the Swarm to be like this dark middle chapter, like the Empire Strikes Back or the Ember Sun, if you will. Sorry, and it wasn't like Heart of the Swarm isn't like it isn't dark at all. You think, oh, maybe Reyna died, and for a second, I sort of believed that. I thought, it wouldn't be impossible, but only bad guys dies there, and Kerrigan is sort of like a hero now. And I don't mind like them adding layers to characters, but the thing about Kerrigan is probably the same thing like Joffrey in Game of Thrones. Like the less gray he is, the more interesting he is, because Kerrigan is like just a monster, and that's what makes her interesting. And as soon as you introduce a sympathetic side to her, and you break the character, I guess. So, right. I mean, I'm gonna buy Legacy of the Void, and I'm probably going to be enjoying the campaign side. I mean, the mission mechanics are always fun. I think, and I mean, I don't think the story is terrible. I don't think it's like great. I don't think it's like the first StarCraft, which had a like awesome story. But I don't know. I get sucked into it, I guess. And like I get on the Leviathan and the Hyperion, and I talk to everyone.
Yep.
And I'm not like one of those people who like skips cinematics. I never understood why people would do that. So, and I play Protoss on Battle.net, so I think it would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my expectations are a bit lowered after Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, Blizzard, it's very cookie cutter, and you have to kind of keep in mind the audience that they're trying to appeal to when they make these campaigns. It's like, I think the major disappointment that I think a lot of people had that are around our age, is that there weren't as many callbacks to Brood War as people wanted. So it's exactly like the sequel thing that we were talking about earlier, as people had expectations that it would be like Brood War, and it's not like Brood War. But as its own entity, it's not bad. And but when you compare it too much to the first installment, there comes a sense of disappointment. But I agree about Kerrigan as well, and I'm kind of curious to see what role she'll play in the third chapter too. So I guess that, and hopefully we'll get a bit of an arcade overhaul, but I kind of doubt that. We'll see though.
Yeah, I mean, I know I will get a lot of new terrain to work with.
Yeah.
Map editor, so I'm welcoming that, of course.
I'm sure they'll introduce a few new tile sets, which will be very nice.
Yeah. Actually, they did showcase some of them on BlizzCon, and they looked really cool.
Is there any in particular that you're really looking forward to?
Well, there was one where you had like this burning platform that was rocketing down like to the ground, and it looked really cool. Other than that, I can't remember much. Mm-hmm. It was mostly like temples and iris and stuff like that. A lot of things you have seen before, with like an added twist or something. But I'll cast my judgment when I actually get to use it.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a feeling we're not going to be seeing it for probably another year. We'll see.
Yeah. I fear you might be right.
Cool. I'm trying to think. We talked about Arenal Eclipse. We talked about terraining. That is my biggest thing because
Yeah.
I want to. I mean, I want to. I really want to get into my own map. Like I have some interesting ideas, but I just don't. Maybe what I was thinking of was like reverse engineering a Blizzard map. Like taking maybe like the evacuation would be a good one because it's got like a nice little zigzag flow to it, and just sort of removing all the units and then starting over, but using that general terrain. We'll see.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, if you don't feel like you're good at terraining, I mean, that's an option. There's nothing wrong with that. But I remember a tip that I read from George Martin, who wrote Song of Ice and Fire, and he said, you shouldn't just write, you should finish writing. And that's such a great tip. I mean, you should open a map and you should finish the map. And, it might not be like the best map ever, probably not, but you'll learn so much by doing that. But yeah, if terrain isn't your forte, I guess your idea wouldn't be wrong at all. I guess because terraining is hard. I mean, that's probably the thing I hate the most about campaigns, because there's so many maps. There's 10 maps for each campaign. It's not like an arcade map where you just figure at it, and you're starting a new map every time, and it's always much more fun to finish them than start them. But you get in the middle and you start to test it, and you see, it looks really cool, and then when it's finally finished, it's so worth it. I spend a lot of time on this, and I don't feel like I'm wasting a second.
Good. That's good to hear. So that reminds me. So I've seen on SC2 Mapster, you have a topic open just called Perfect Soldiers, which is the whole trilogy, and you've talked about making changes to existing campaigns. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Oh, definitely. Well, the idea was like, instead of having like 3 campaigns, it would be like one big one, like 3 parts: Crimson Moon, Amber Sun, and Aurelian Eclipse. So like when people search for it, they don't have to search for 3 different things, and they don't have to like play one and like figure out a year later that there was a sequel. So that was the main idea. But you get carried away, and I never planned to do a trilogy. I just make one campaign and decide, okay, I should do a sequel, and then I did Amber Sun, and I had a lot of cool ideas for the 3rd part, and then okay, I start that too. And like there are things that I didn't plan to do, obviously. So like for instance, in Aurelian Eclipse there's a new faction called Jojimbo. It's not a spoiler to say that, which is like this mercenary faction. And basically one of the things that I did, I went back to the first mission in Crimson Moon, and the units that you control are like 2 Marauders and 2 Medics, and I just retconned that and said, okay, these guys are Jojimbo now. So when you play Perfect Soldiers, when I release it, they'll be addressed as Jojimbo mercenaries, and essentially building up to the last part. And I did a lot of other stuff like that. I mean, adding small details, changing stuff I wasn't happy with. I can't think of many examples now, but I mean, most of Crimson Moon and Amber Sun are going to be the same, and Aurelian Eclipse is going to be the way it was. But then one day I had the idea, I was like, what if I made more missions? I mean, not like before the story or after them, but like in between.
Whew, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, because I have a lot of story ideas. I have like this background that I want to have in. There's some new characters I want to get in, and the idea is that if I ever get so far, each of the 3 parts will have extra 5 missions. And all of those 5 missions will be from like a different perspective. So like the call row, like the protoss you meet in Amber Sun, you'll meet them earlier. They won't they won't be integrated in the story like earlier, but you'll meet them and basically have it build up to when they meet Bayo in Amber Sun. And also there's this new character called Elena Rain, who like she starts out on Roverville, but she's like a Geraldus representative. So when the Amina folks start fighting Geraldus, she leaves them and goes with Geraldus. Not necessarily by choice. I mean, she likes the Amina guys, but she works for Geraldus. I mean, that's where she belongs. And her story is, well, let's just say there's a lot of cool things in store for her and the player if I ever get that far.
Huh, that's really interesting. So you would have like Kulro in like a Geraldus mission, and that'd be really interesting because these are like factions that you don't know too much about.
Yeah, I mean, there's this new campaign now. It's not finished yet, but there's 6 minutes finished. It's called Annihilation, and it's probably like one of the best campaigns out there. Maybe the best, according to me. And, it has a lot of different perspectives, and I thought that worked really great, and I was like, oh, I want that too.
I'm actually
So,
really, I'm looking forward to Annihilation. Actually, the
yeah, you
Mapmaker
should.
for that is been commenting on my channel every so often, so I'm sure he'll be watching this. But that's when I played the first mission, and I'm like, I'm gonna hold off. I mean, it's not gonna be done for a while. It's because he's got like 24 missions planned, which is ambitious, but it's
Yeah,
I don't wanna play bit by bit before I record it. So, but eventually I'll get there. I'm really
yeah.
excited.
Yeah, I think probably that's the best way to do it. And, it's a really great campaign, you have a lot of store for you. I guess I have to, I mean, it's not finished. I've played the missions that are finished, and they're so great. Like everything about it is great. The music, the story, the terrain. Usually when you play a custom campaign, there's something lacking. It's usually the terrain because most people can't do terrain. But I don't find any faults with that campaign. It's been so amazing, and I actually got a bit jealous. I was playing it and I was thinking like, oh, I need to up my game, to stay ahead. And so I just played one of these missions and I think, okay, I should do something really big for Oriel and Eclipse. And so I made this like big 7-minute cinematic in Mission 3, which has this huge battle. It's basically like the biggest cinematic I've ever done.
Whew.
And yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing it on your channel because, I want people to react to that one like in real time. I mean, my testers, they love it, and I love it myself. It's really great. It really builds, and it's really intense. And there's a cool little twist somewhere in there. And yeah, so I mean, I guess competition is really great in that regard because it makes my campaign better.
Well, yeah, and that's the nice thing about the community in general is it's not like a I want to be better than you. It's like you kind of build off of each other and you give each
Oh,
other
actually, it is.
more ideas.
I definitely do this. No,
Yeah, no,
I mean, I
actually.
was playing this campaign and I was like, shit, this guy's better than me. And I suppose that was one of the advantages I had when I started because there weren't a lot of campaigns. I was thinking, oh, this is like an area that I can excel because I probably wouldn't be able to create a good arcade map. Certainly not one that was like the most popular on Battle.net. But I could like make the best Starcraft 2 custom campaign ever. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. That's not for me to decide. But I think there aren't a lot of custom campaigns, unfortunately. But they're coming now, and like Annihilation is it's the best one.
Great.
Yeah, so if the creator is listening, he should blush right now, I guess. He has every reason to. But there are a lot of other great campaigns. The like biotech company is really great. Ignos is looking very cool. I can't think of anyone else right now, but there are. I just not because they aren't great, because I just didn't remember the names. But it's been a slow start, but it's coming along now, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say 2014 specifically. I mean, it's been since 2010. People have had this available, but just this year specifically, it seems like there's been some really good releases and a lot of really good ones in planning too. Which is it just seems like a strange year because Heart of the Swarm was last year, and I guess maybe a lot of well, technically 2 years ago now because we're 2015 now, but it just seemed strange that there weren't nearly as many projects in flight 2 years ago when Heart of the Swarm was released, or 4 years ago when Wings of Liberty was released. But now specifically, people seem to be really getting into it. Not really sure what happened.
Yeah, I don't know either. I guess it's a slow start, but sometimes things just they take a lot of time,
Oh yeah.
and maybe this is like the peak. I doubt it, probably, because we still have Annihilation in front of us, and Ignos too. And my campaign, I'm certainly not stopping anytime soon.
Great.
But yeah, but campaigns are like they're hard to, well, not technically hard. I would argue that they are like one of the easiest things to make, but it just takes a long time because you have to create like 5 to 10 maps or something like that, or 24 apparently.
Yeah, when I remember because back when he started, he's like, "This is gonna be 24 missions." I'm like, "Wow!" To
Yeah.
announce that before you've really started is kind of crazy, but the progress that has been made is excellent. So
Yeah, and he works really fast too. I mean, it's like I think he has 8 missions finished now, and that's like 1/3. I think he works faster than me, and I actually work pretty fast.
right, and I think what can I guess it depends on what the emphasis of the map is, because if it's very micro intensive, then you're going to have a lot more triggers, and terrain's always important, but especially on micro missions, terrain is absolutely essential. And that, like, if you're very good at those sorts of things, then your map will go faster.
Yeah, I mean that's an advantage that I have because I've gotten used to it now. I have sort of like this routine I do. So maps are usually finished pretty quickly, as quickly as you can. I mean, obviously it takes a lot of time to fill in all the terrain, but triggers. I know exactly what I'm going to do, and I already planned the story ahead, so I don't have to spend time on that.
So you do have an ending planned out for Aurelian Eclipse.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't have all the details, but I know what's happening in each of the missions, like which characters survive, which do not.
Okay.
And all the big twists, and I mean, I don't know like dialogue for each mission, but I have basically like the beats that the characters are supposed to hit and the story is supposed to hit.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's one thing that I guess that's one thing that George R. R. Martin did do, and it has a lot of people worrying, is because he said he kind of has it planned out, but it was originally only supposed to be 3 books, and now suddenly it's 7. Probably going to be 8 or 9 if if it gets finished. And that's what I think when it comes to really long and elaborate series that people get really invested in. People get nervous because they're like, well, it's sort of planned out, but it keeps adding and adding and adding that it's never going to be complete.
Yeah, I mean, George R. R. Martin was probably like taken aback how big everything was. I mean, I think one time he said that he wished he had written like 5 kingdoms instead of 7. And I'm not going to spoil the last books, but they keep expanding and expanding and introducing new characters, and the story is very big as it is. And so will he finish it? I don't know. Doesn't know where he's going. He says he does. I trust him. I think the next book is going to be good. I wasn't that big a fan of the last 2 books, but I have hope. I guess I'm an optimist.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm a huge fan of the books. I read those before the show, and I think we're getting to the point where we're going to be watching the show before the books come out.
Yeah, and I came to the show first, but then I read the books. So but I have hopes for the next season too. They're probably going to have to invent a lot of stuff and change it, but there are a lot of great moments coming. So the Unsullied, as I call it, they should look forward to it.
Cool. Well, is there any teaser you would feel comfortable giving me about Orion Eclipse before we take off here?
Well, there are some. Uh, I think if you like the last mission in Amber Sun, like with powerful Janus and the boss battles, you're probably going to love Orion Eclipse.
Great, great. Okay, well,
Yeah,
I really look forward to it, and I look forward to any changes you're going to make to your other stuff too.
yeah,
Well, thanks so much for talking with me, and
yeah. It was fun.
there's anything else you want to add, this would be a good spot to stop. So, again, thanks for talking with me. I hope everyone who was listening enjoyed this and learned a little something about map making. And also, go ahead, make sure you download Crimson Sun. Now I'm saying it, Crimson Moon and Amber Sun, because they are fantastic. You could check out my playthroughs just to get a feel for it if you're interested but aren't sure, and then make sure you go download it. Anyway, this has been Jay Borino here with EivindL. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.